science.
Suffice it that the blood of 1,000 men and women was spilled in these walls. Limbs twisted and broken. Eyes gouged from bloody sockets. Flesh burned black.
Please. You're with the dead. In death, there are no accidents, no coincidences, no mishaps, and no saves. What you have to realize is that we're all just a mouse that a cat has by the tail.
The number you have reached, 911, has been changed to a non-published number.
Warning, the following show contains conservative posturing, radical Christian ideas, and may offend pagans, Wiccans, Islamic fundamentalists, and other unenlightened individuals. Callers and guests may be subjected to brash and offensive comments by the hosts and any other type of bullying tactics available. But that's okay. We know why you're here.
This concludes this test of the emergency broadcast system.
Tonight is Monday, November 19th, 2007.
Welcome one, welcome all to World of the Unexplained. This is Jay Scott.
And this is James Clements.
That's right. Mr. J.D. Clements, our own. As usual, Trent is late. We're going to fire him.
Nothing. What else do you expect?
I don't know. Some punctuality would be good.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Especially since he asked me to write that whole recommendation letter. I had to lie.
Did you write it yet?
Yeah, I did finally. I think like last week.
Oh, good.
I sent it out Friday, I believe, or Saturday or something like that. I don't know. But, you know, I mean, it's evil. It's evil. I want you guys to know that Chuck Browder is not with us tonight. He's, what is Chuck doing tonight?
He's got a, I guess it's an audition, I think is what he's doing
like a
tonight.
recital or something?
A recital, yeah.
Chuck plays the classical guitar, for those of you that do not know that. He's got his BFA in guitar.
Yeah, in classical guitar, yeah.
Yeah. Pretty interesting stuff. But anyway, so Chuck's gone, but he will be back here Wednesday night when we kick off our brand new show, The Third Rail, I guess. I don't know if we call it
just
Third Rail.
I think it's just Third Rail.
It might be, yeah. Third Rail. ThirdRailRadio.com. So check that out, guys. If you're into conservative talk radio, you'll like it. Chuck being the libertarian that he is, and me being the hardcore radical Republican that people hate to love, we'll be here talking about the current issues of the day and how they affect our lives. Our first guest is going to be Mr. Buchanan from StopHungerNow.org. So that'll be pretty cool. He's a real good guy, Baptist minister at one time, and it should be a pretty fun show. Tonight on World of the Unexplained, we've got Matt Bronleewe, a former member of the band Jars of Clay, has released a book, and we're going to be talking about that. It's going to be pretty wild because this book goes into all kinds of secret societies and that kind of conspiratorial-minded kind of stuff. So it should be pretty neat. But he's going to be joining us a little bit later. But for now, like I said, it's just me and Mr. James D. Clements here. I spoke to Joshua P. Warren earlier today.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's getting ready to take a field trip to a place I can't talk about, but we will be talking about it later because...
I like how you put in the subtle hints.
I always bait everyone.
But then you don't, you don't ever follow up with it. I like that.
Yeah, it's good. Well, I mean, the cool thing is I talked to him about it. I said, I can't tell anybody about this thing, but he said, yeah, you're one of the few people that know. And I said, well, okay, well, I appreciate that. He said, listen, I'm going to give it George Nuri. He said, I'm going to give George a crack at this. And then I'm going to give I'm going to, do it on my show. But your show is the third one, so there's only going to be 3 shows that's getting the first crack at this thing when he gets back to talk about this after the proverbial cat is out of the bag.
Good.
There's Mr. Lackey.
Hello, Mr. Lackey.
How are you, Trent? Trent's wearing a powder blue T-shirt tonight. That looks good on you there, sexy.
Yes, but I can't use stripes because they always make me look...
fat. Yeah, I know.
Actually, apparently, horizontal stripes
make you look thin.
Yeah. No, I think it's vertical stripes make you look thin.
Yeah. Horizontal makes you look fat.
Yeah,
That's true.
look any taller.
Yeah, that's true.
Good point.
I should probably just wear vertical stripes and,
Yeah.
I'll be some kind of a scarecrow looking thing, or a scarecrow Sasquatch, or a scare squatch.
A scare squatch.
Yeah, like a scarecrow Sasquatch. Anyway.
Yeah, but anyway, so tonight we've got Matt Bronleewe, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right. D tells me that I am.
Yes, you are.
So we'll go with that. So what's been going on, Trent? T-Dog?
Nothing much. I mean,
That's good.
Yeah.
It's good to know. I'm glad to hear that.
you know, I was just thinking, I don't have any kind of real beef, but for some reason, I went and saw that Bee movie.
Bee movie?
Mm-hmm. It was terrible. You know,
What do you mean?
that Bee movie is about bees.
Oh, I was thinking that. I was asking what Bee movie are you talking about?
I mean, Blood Lake, Scott, of course.
Yeah,
what Bee movie could I possibly talk
I have
about?
no idea. I saw a really terrible film the other night. It was with Danny DeVito and Matthew Broderick. It's one of those Christmas holiday movies. It's called,
you know, most of those Christmas holiday movies are horrible.
They are. Most of them are. And
Which
this
is
really
just,
bad.
Yeah, it's just like this Bee movie thing. It's like, you know, parents will fork out money because there's bright colors and little silly things, but in all honesty, it was a terrible film. I think if I was a child, I would sort of go like,
I don't
you
know.
know?
Kids have got so much more today than we did in regards to the stuff you can do with movies.
Yeah, but unfortunately, I think, you know, they just basically put a lot of flashy stuff out there and cover up for bad script writing.
Oh, of course they do.
A poorly made
What's
film.
script writing? Aren't we still on
it trickles down to the...
Aren't we still on the screen? Yeah, aren't they still on strike there? I mean, I don't know. Are they? Are they still on strike?
I
I don't
they
know.
are.
I haven't kept up with the news this week, so I've been bad.
I've been living in a cave myself too. Apparently, there was a cyclone in Bangladesh. Very
Really?
horrible situation. Yeah,
That's
It's
awful.
Well, it's a terrible. The environment's not very conducive for survival whenever the floods and everything. I mean, the country is practically a river valley, swampland. But that's what I've heard about it.
Yeah, I've got
quite awful.
bogged down with all this lawyering stuff,
Yeah.
so it's a
Silly,
defending
people's
defending
rights.
justice. I mean, what's that all about, right?
Come on.
Keeping the free world
Oh,
free.
silly things like that. Who, is it really a free world?
No, it's not. But anyway, let's get back to that later. Right now, we've got a guest on with us. His name is Matt Bronleewe. You guys may know him from his former band Jars of Clay, and now he's come out with
I
a
remember
book.
Jars of Clay.
Yeah, everybody remembers Jars of Clay. Matt, are you with us?
I am right here.
All right, awesome. Thanks for coming on the show tonight, man. We appreciate it.
No, this is going to be fun.
Awesome. What point did you leave Jars of Clay?
It was actually pretty early in the process. We helped start the band in college. Charlie Lowell, who was the keyboard player, was my roommate. And then in the room right next door to me was Dan, the lead singer, and Steve, the other guitarist.
Okay, now you guys were
Up Jars my sophomore year.
you guys were a Christian rock group, right?
Yeah. I mean, it was like, it's kind of funny because it's always called like a rock band, but, in the early days it was like acoustic guitar and almost like dance beats.
Yeah.
But because we were doing something kind of edgy,
Interesting.
it was like a rock band.
Well, I think
Acoustic guitar and dance beats.
I don't know if you've ever heard our show before, but we're Christian conservative paranormal talk. I know it doesn't really mix and mesh well, but yeah, so it's kind of fun to get you on here to have somebody like-minded individual.
Definitely, it's awesome.
But so were you around when you guys did the big song that broke through on the secular airwaves, or?
Yeah, I didn't get to contribute to Flood as a writer, but during that first record making, I was able to have 7 songs on the CD, and as a co-writer, and got to have some guitar playing on it and everything like that, and it was definitely just awesome to see everything take off the way it did.
Now you live in Tennessee now, correct?
Yep, Nashville, Tennessee.
All right, country music capital of the world, and you're in the South. You're doing
building.
good already. Yeah, Batman building. Yeah. So are you from Tennessee originally?
No, I'm from the mecca of rock music, Kansas.
Really? Okay. Huh.
Yeah, so it was such a mecca that was actually a band in the 80s by that name.
So how do you like living in the South?
It's cool. I mean, Nashville is so up and coming. I mean, they're calling it the new LA, and it's like, I can really feel it. I mean, things change here daily. I mean, I live a few blocks away from, Jack White just moved here from LA, and it's like, I feel like we're getting cooler all the time.
Well, one of the stations that carries us, one of the networks that carries us, is actually based out of Nashville now, OmniSound Radio.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Yeah. So we'll give a big shout out to those guys and to you guys out in Arizona listening tonight on KWSS.
That's right.
and in Omaha, and in I'm not gonna go through everybody in Washington. But thanks so much for coming on. Now let's talk about this book that you've got out. It's called Illuminated, right?
Yes, Illuminated.
All right. Now I was told from your publicist, and I may have got a copy, but I haven't checked my mail in a while. But I know we just set this thing up a few days ago.
Yeah.
And but I am going to read it and have you back on, provided you're a good guest. Scott. But so far, so good. It seems to be going great.
Working well, you know.
Tell us, is this your first book?
It is, yeah. This is my first foray into the book world, and it's been, daunting and fun and crazy.
All right. Well, what is it about?
Illuminated is a thriller, and it really is kind of in the mold of a 24 or a Lost or something like that. It deals with the mysteries inside of the Gutenberg Bible.
Okay. Yeah, I did read that, something about the pictures or the engravings.
Yeah, it's crazy. The Gutenberg Bible was created 550 years ago, pretty much. And there were these illuminations, which were paintings that were placed in each one of the Gutenberg Bibles, usually after the printing had occurred. And, as I started to dig into what these pictures, these illuminations were, just kept on. It was a rabbit trail. I kept on finding new and more fascinating things.
Could you give some descriptions of these illuminations? As to why they're so...
They're really, really wild. It's like here you have a Bible, and you would expect that inside of it, to accompany something like that, you'd have these very kind of prim and proper, and maybe the picture of a saint, and you do see things like that. But the other things that you see are, for instance, on one page, one that really stood out to me very quickly, I noticed on the left-hand side of the page, there was a vine kind of creeping up the side, and then about 3/4 of the way up, you see this black ape, and it's kind of got an evil grin on its face, and seems to be kind of ascending, like toward heaven on this vine or something. And immediately I was like, okay, what's an ape doing on this page? And it, had really, nothing to do with the text. It wasn't like this was part of Genesis and it was describing, the creation of an ape or anything like that.
I don't know if there's many ape references in the Bible anyway.
What's that?
Any kind of references to the Bible that sort of even relate to an ape-like creature. Maybe there's some.
Well, there is in the liberal Bible, but that's called Darwin.
Oh.
But sorry, I had to go there.
That's funny. Anyway, that's interesting though.
So what and these are now I'm assuming this book is a fictional work.
Yeah, Illuminated is fiction. It's a thriller, but I definitely tried to carry into it as much real world mystery as I could.
Okay. That's what I was going to ask about, the research behind the actual writing of the book.
Yeah, it was, it was kind of a little scary, I felt like. It's like, I was researching 2 different secret societies, one called the Order of the Dragon, and then another called the Orphans. And, as I began to kind of troll the internet and look up information on especially the Order of the Dragon, it was a little bit creepy. It's like, come to find out that this is an organization that still can be found today in certain areas. And I was actually able to connect with a guy named Philip Gardner via email, who's actually met some of these people who claim to be part of the kind of the new Order of the Dragon, who are basically modern-day Nazis.
Wonderful.
This is just sort of an offshoot, but I don't really know if this is true or not. But is there any relationship between this Order of the Dragon and, let's say, the same order that Vlad Tepes had belonged to? Dracul means dragon after all.
Totally,
yes. Connection between there.
And that's something that I talk about in the book actually quite a bit. It came exactly from that place. Basically, what had happened was there was a king named King Sigismund, who was emperor of the Holy Roman Empire. And back in about 1408, 1409, 1410, somewhere in there, he starts this secret fraternal order of the Knights called the Order of the Dragon. And Vlad II, who was, the guy that we call Dracula, was his father. He was one of the forming members of this group, and carried around this emblem that had a dragon on it, and that was all tied up together.
Very cool.
So you actually you didn't speak with anyone from this order or claiming to be from this order, but you did speak to a person that knew them?
Yeah, correct. And I did try and reach out to to some people and to some organizations that seem to have some of those roots, and quickly things would shut down. In fact, I kind of had a couple different kind of creepy things happen. One was I found a website that claimed to be dedicated to the new Order of the Dragon, like a formal kind of modern-day institution built upon the same principles as the earlier model. And tried to contact them, and I think they even had like a membership form and things like that. And didn't really hear back from them, but I kept checking the website, and they would have updates and things like that. Okay, so Illuminated comes out last August, just a few months ago.
Okay.
And about a week after that, the Order of the Dragon website disappears.
Ooh.
And,
Really?
and still to this day, I can't find out what happened to this website. It just seems to have, disappeared. So, for me, I'm like, what if they got a little creeped out? Like, what if I started to expose something and they, took it off the web? It really did kind of mess with my mind a little bit.
I imagine so. So, I mean, what are the principles then of the Order of the Dragon? I guess the old principles and the new Order principles. I mean,
well, back when they were instituted, that was a time when they were really fixated on fighting the Turks. Mm-hmm. They had this monumental battle going on,
right?
And they were trying to gather support from wherever they could. So they had, a very, very specific number of knights who kind of gathered to create this Order of the Dragon. And, at face value, they claimed that was their main thing, was fighting the Turks. But come to find out that there were a lot of other things going on. And one of the other main things going on that I really started to dig into more and more was this fight that they had going on with a group called the Orphans. Now, the Orphans were formed, most people say, after the martyring of a man named Jan Hus, John Huss, who was martyred for his beliefs. This guy was really somebody who, Martin Luther 100 years later said if everybody had been listening to Jan Hus, the Reformation would have happened then, instead of like 100 years later.
Yeah.
So Jan Hus is martyred at the stake, and all the people who followed him, said afterwards they felt like they had been orphaned, and so they'd been left behind by their leader, and so they called themselves the Orphans. And another man, General Zizka, kind of took control of the organization. Here was this one-eyed battle leader, big sword running out there and just trying to conquer. And so you have this group called the Orphans in this very large-scale battle with the Order of the Dragon, and this is happening in the early 1400s, and really the exact same time period as Johannes Gutenberg.
Huh. So these are the two groups that you bring into this work of fiction.
Exactly. So for me, in Illuminated, fast forward to modern day, for me it was like, wow, what was going on back then? And if Gutenberg was involved and, if certain things were possible, what would that look like today? If these two groups decided to, if this was an ongoing battle, what would it look like in a modern-day setting? And that really became kind of the premise of Illuminated, was a modern-day battle of the Order of the Dragon and the Orphans.
Now, your website is www.mattbronleewe.com, and I'm going to spell that last name for those of you that are listening now. It's BRONLEEWE. That's mattbronleewe.com. Now, they can also get the book on Amazon, I'm assuming?
Totally.
Okay. What's your preferred method?
I would say, however you can find it, grab it.
Okay, great.
Yeah, it should be in any local bookstore, but definitely Amazon.com is an easy place to go.
Okay, awesome. Now, are you working on a sequel to this, or is this just a one-trick pony kind of thing?
Yeah, I'm actually working on a number of follow-ups. I'm going to be working on 4 more books that include the same main character. The main character's name is August Adams, and he's this rare book collector and seller. And so now I've been working on the follow-up called House of Wolves, which will release next August. And it will deal with a whole new set of circumstances, a new ancient book, a new secret society, again, based in a lot of history.
Well, that's awesome. Now, so what about this orphan group? Is there some kind of modern day, in real life, is there a modern day group that claims to be them now that you've managed to find any connection to or anything?
Well, it's kind of interesting. I mean, really what you find is that with Martin Luther, the ideals of the orphans were really picked up with him. And you know, you find kind of that this system, you know, their system of beliefs turns into what eventually becomes the Reformation. So, you know, of course, today we have lots of churches that, you know, came out of that and refer to that as kind of the beginnings of their history.
Well, yeah. Well, let me stop you there. I mean, the Pope just told us a few months ago that the Catholic Church is the only real religion, right? the only real church.
Yeah.
My bad.
Yeah, that's what he said. That's what
old Ratzinger. You see, this is what happens when you. No,
that's
anyway.
what old Double B said. I just called the Pope.
But
B.
now,
Anyway.
now you know what I noticed that you said you had left. Maybe I should get on this topic after the first break, and I'll just drop it out there for now. But I noticed that you said that you had left the band Jars of Clay to get into higher education, and I'm assuming that involved either some seminary work or some kind of religious studies work by some of the topics that we're dealing with. Or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is just something that you had an interest in, that you pursued the research on. But I'll get into that after the break. But let's. Or you can tell me now. I guess I shouldn't have brought it up if I was just going to drop the ball like that.
Well, it might come as a little bit of a disappointment. When I originally left the band, I was very focused on earning my degree to become an economics professor.
Oh gosh, ugh.
Exciting!
Oh, yeah, good stuff.
Statistics, dollar signs.
I mean, it seems like the opposite of everything else that I love to do.
Huh.
But it was great. I mean, I picked up a little bit more schooling, but it wasn't long after that that I was really led to Nashville and back into music again, but this time in a completely different role as a producer and a songwriter.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So you're doing that now?
Yes. Yeah, I've been doing that for about 10 years now.
I'll have to send you some of my music. See?
There you go.
That's the way the networking thing works with me. That's why I know everybody, guys. That's why I know them all. Yeah. But yeah, that's awesome. We're going to take a break here in just a little bit, but I wanted to hit on some other points of this. Now, this is the first book in a series of books, and I'm assuming you're using the same August Adams character throughout?
Yeah, August is going to appear in each one of the books. And, I mean, I've kind of taken the, Jack Bauer or, like, Indiana Jones kind of model of having each book be completely self-contained. I mean, for me, it's like I love series, and I love, looking forward to that next book, but I didn't want to just leave people hanging every time. And so, it's like that's kind of what drove me crazy about watching Lost, is I felt like you never get the satisfaction of knowing what's happening next. So, having these books drop, basically one a year, I wanted people to be able to pick up, Illuminated, for instance, and be able to read it and just have the satisfaction of knowing everything they need to know when they get done. But also being able to look forward to, hey, next year there's going to be a brand new adventure out there.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And then they can also decide to start maybe in book 3, and then, if they got into it at book 3, say, oh, wow, I missed these 2 up here, and go back and not be missing out on them.
Yeah, they're not, since they're all self-contained and episodal,
Completely.
All right, well, we're going to...
Miss parts.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's it. I'm done.
We're going to be back with Matt Bronleewe here in just a little bit. You can give us a call here, toll-free in the United States and Canada, 1-877-722-7382. That number again, 1-877-SCARE-YOU2, or locally 336-996-1596. You're listening to World of the Unexplained. Tonight our guest, once again, Matt Bronleewe. You can see his website at www.mattbronleewe.com. That's BRONLEEWE.com, and we'll be back in just a few moments with Matt and your phone calls after this.
World of the Unexplained. Gotta love them secret societies. We got Matt Bronleewe on tonight.
How's it going, guys?
Oh, doing pretty good. Give us a call, 336-996-1596. That's the local number, or 1-877-SCARE-YOU2. Give us a call, guys. Okay, Matt. So we were talking about on the break about your other research for your upcoming work. About
secret societies.
Some more secret societies.
Yeah. My newest book that I'm just in the midst of finishing, and it'll release actually next August. It's a follow-up to Illuminated, called House of Wolves, and it deals with, at its core, a book called The Gospels of Henry the Lion, which were created in the late 1100s. And the secret society that it deals with.
Oh, let me stop you there for a second. Is this one of these apocryphal books or something like that?
What it was is back then, kings and emperors and people like that would create these gospel books. And what they would do is they would take portions of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and they would just take out little portions of them and put them into a book, and then they would create next to them tons of illuminations and miniatures and things like that. Again, paintings, depictions of Christ, of saints, of even themselves, and that's one of the things that I actually deal with as well. Is that in this book called the Gospels of Henry the Lion, Henry the Lion, who was a duke back in the late 1100s, he had this gospel book created, and he depicted himself with Christ and the apostles and other people. And people looked at this and thought he was kind of crazy. And it kind of makes sense. It's like, I've explained it this way. It's like if you went into Photoshop and took, Bono and Oprah and the president and then Photoshopped yourself in with them, and took it around town and said, hey, look what I...
Especially if you had thumbs up signs and a huge goofy smile.
Oh, no, wait.
Yeah.
This gets better, though. Do you remember this, Matt? They had this was a few years ago. I believe I was living in Florida at the time. They had some kind of creche scene in another country, I believe, and it had different heads of state and different things like that inside the manger scene, and I believe one of the wise men was George W. Bush, and that's what I got such a big kick out of it. But do you remember hearing about this on the news, though?
I don't, but that sounds about right.
Okay. Well, anyway, I'll let you get back to that. Go ahead.
I mean, it's like, I think today it's like we forget because we have Photoshop and see crazy movies and hear about things exactly like that in the news. We see that all the time, but back then, for somebody to actually have, a painting created with themselves, next to Christ or next to an apostle or a saint, I mean, that really said something. And so people took notice of this guy, Henry the Lion. And he really was, kind of made fun of it because of it.
I understand. What was his nationality? Was he
this was over in Germany.
Okay.
In, sections of Germany, of modern-day Germany, I should say.
Okay.
That was Saxony and Bavaria.
Now, did the people back then consider that blasphemous, or did they consider it
kind
part
of
of the whole
somehow.
God-king complex with all that?
Yeah, no, it definitely was. It definitely was blasphemous, and that's really what got him into some trouble. He had a relative, this guy, Emperor Barbarossa, who was very involved with this group called the Holy Them. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about them, but the Holy Them kind of came into power while Henry the Lion was away on a crusade. And when he returned, he really was in some trouble because he'd been thinking so highly of himself and, showing himself in all these grand pictures and things like that. And come to find out there was this this huge vigilante group called the Holy Them that was really taking control of the area.
Oh, all right. So we've got the Holy Them as one of these secret societies as well.
Yes.
Okay.
And they're the ones that this guy I was talking about earlier, Philip Gardner, was able to get in contact with. The Holy Them. It really, if you start looking at what they were about and what they were trying to accomplish, this is really the roots of what become the Nazis later on in history.
Wonderful.
There are lots of similarities, lots of ties there. I don't know if you got, there's a king that was named Charlemagne.
Oh, yeah,
course,
we're familiar with
knows
Charlemagne. Yeah, of course.
This big, he was like very grand. I mean, a really great guy for the most part. Was thought very highly of. Well, in his absence, there was this small group of people that wanted to kind of uphold the values that he held up. And that's where the Holy Them starts. And so they start this list of rules, and it kind of grows and becomes this vigilante organization. And again, this is like 1,000 years ago, basically.
Okay.
So they were out there trying to, take care of business. And it's like their main thing was if you broke one of the 10 Commandments, they were going to do something about it. But again, this was a secret society, and really one of the first true secret societies in terms of how we think of them in modern times. And I'll explain kind of the classic depiction. And this is what's so crazy. This is a true account of what would happen.
Okay.
They would meet in these underground caves. I mean, these dank, dark, torch-lit caves.
Mm-hmm.
And they would all don these black cloaks, with hoods and the whole thing, and sit on these, bleachers on the side. And there was a man known as the Stolher, who was the judge that would preside over their tribunals. And they would bring down into the cave somebody who they said, okay, you've broken one of the 10 Commandments, or you've offended us, or you've wronged someone else, and you've got to pay for it. So they bring him before the court. Everybody would be deathly silent, except for the judge at the front, who would declare, he'd read basically the sentence to this guy, and then he'd tell him that he needs to go to the front of the cave and kiss this golden statue that would be standing there. Well, this golden statue was the Virgin Mary, but what the person who had to approach the statue didn't know was that this was also an Iron Maiden. Now, for anybody out there who doesn't know what an Iron Maiden is...
It's a heavy metal band from the 80s. No, I'm sorry.
Similar to Queensryche.
Bruce Dickinson was the lead singer. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Back when they were good, Bruce Dickinson was lead singer. Anyway,
right.
Go ahead.
Understandable.
I'm a guitar player, so yeah, it's like, got to think back to the 80s. The Iron Maiden, was a statue. You'd break it open in the front. I mean, it had a seam down the middle. You'd open it up, and inside were all of these spikes
Yeah.
set at even intervals. For maximum penetration.
So it basically made you Swiss cheese when it closed.
It's, absolutely horrific. Now, what's even worse is this Iron Maiden is the Virgin Mary. So imagine, it's like they force this guy up front. They say, kiss the Virgin's feet, and she'll declare, judgment on you. So he leans down, he kisses the Virgin's feet, he thinks everything's okay. All of a sudden, this Virgin Mary opens up, and they shove him inside of it, close the Iron Maiden around him. Now, that's just the beginning.
The beginning?
Next is the floor beneath him opens up, and the body drops through the spikes down through these spiraling cylinders with knives that would shred the person to little bits and then send them down into an underground river and take them away.
Oh, my gosh.
Unbelievable. Wow.
But this is absolutely, a true account of what would happen with the Holy Them back 1,000 years ago. This organization came to have 100,000 members, and historians have looked at it and they said, other than the journals that they found afterward, like if somebody had died or a letter that was sent to somebody else, no one ever no one ever told anybody that they were part of this organization. So it was a secret society that was truly secret. The only things that we know about them have been discovered afterwards from the writings of the people involved.
No, whatever happened to the whole vengeance is mine, saith the Lord thing?
Judge not, lest ye be judged,
I'm just curious about it. This is another anomaly I found. I don't know if you guys caught this, and I may have mentioned this. I probably did about a year ago. But this past weekend, I was, watching TV late at night like I normally do. And I was watching this. I was actually laying in the bed, and they had the History Channel had this thing on the history of the Ku Klux Klan. Have you guys seen this? Any of you?
Yeah, I believe I've seen it.
Have you seen this, Matt?
No, I have not.
Okay, it was like a 2-hour special. And, at the beginning, they got all these rednecks out in the woods, and they're talking about, being in the Klan and what it's done for them. The saddest thing about it is, though, seeing these little babies they've got, in the little Klan outfit. It would be cute if it weren't, like, hate-based. I mean, it would actually be cute if it wasn't.
Oh, chubby baby with a little white hoodie.
Little hood on, yeah.
But hiding his identity.
The thing is, they talk about their love of Christ and of the Bible. But then in the next, sentence, you see the guy standing there with a microphone saying, we hate Jews and we hate, well, the N-word. I'm not going to use it, obviously. But, it's like, how can you hate Jews if if you love Jesus. I don't. It's like the two just don't seem to go hand in hand here. I don't see how they fixate on that. But the interesting part I found about the whole thing was, when they light the cross, what that's supposed to symbolize. Because they ask them, why do you burn these crosses? Because you would think that would be, sacrilegious to burn a cross. Well, it's bringing light into a world of darkness. I'm not kidding you. This is what comes out of this guy's mouth. It's bringing light into a world of darkness.
By destroying the inherent religious symbol of Christianity.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, this is the way these people think. And I just found that really interesting. But
just how you can twist a...
And you see the exact same thing with this organization, the Holy Them. I mean, they had a list of 6 sins which they considered to be the worst of all offenses. And the 6 sins were, number 1, heresy.
Okay.
Number 2, perjury. And that was really against their court.
Okay. No other court, just theirs.
Number 3, paganism. Number 4, witchcraft. I'm realizing as I'm saying this sounds like a very, dark, David Letterman bit. But
and the top 6 list is
the deadly sins of the Holy Them. Anyway.
Number 5, revealing the secrets of the Holy Them. Again, one about them. And number 6, revealing the secrets of Careless Magnus, who was Charlemagne. But again, it's like all things that you would think on face value, like, well, that's not terrible. You're like, they're trying to keep people on the straight and narrow and all this kind of. But it turned out that it was like basically anything you did, anything that anybody did was, if they looked at you the wrong way, that was enough that they were like, you know what, let's go ahead and kill them.
Well, it's kind of like Rule 5. It's kind of like Fight Club. There's no such thing as fight. What is it?
Do not talk about.
Don't talk about Fight Club. Rule number 2: do not talk about Fight Club. Yeah, that's one of those things, I guess.
Interesting.
Don't talk about the Holy Them.
And why did they call themselves the Holy Them? I mean, why not the Holy We or the Holy Us? That's an interesting.
It's actually It's them. It's VEHM.
Them.
Oh, them. Oh. Okay.
I thought it was them too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That would make much sense. The Holy Them.
It's called the Holy Them.
God, we're real scholastic over here, aren't we?
Yeah. Cracking open my Tacitus right now.
And I have an English degree. Gosh, I'm embarrassed right now.
But that's kind of behavior also. I mean, history is full of these sort of organizations. Some are smiled upon by the state, and some of them, I guess, like these guys, which aren't more clandestine. But I mean, that they decide that this is the rules and this is how it should be done. But in all reality, it could be anything at all that would get you taken by these guys.
No. It's
kind of ridiculous. But
what would happen, Matt, if say Trent and I and James here were all in this group together, and we committed one of these 6 deadlies? Would since we're in the group, does that kind of save us if we're higher up on the aristocratic Holy Them poll?
Holy Them.
I said Vim.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. But
I mean, the worst offense, as I started digging into it, the worst offense was if you were in the organization and you said something to somebody else, or you broke one of the violations. That was the worst.
So they didn't cut any slack for being part of the club.
Yeah. Exactly. Oh, yeah, that was the complete worst thing to do. They'd get rid of you instantly.
So I mean, how'd they go about being secret? I mean, were there secret handshakes? Putting a sign on the door. A certain wink from the left eye 3 times. I mean, what'd they do to sort of recognize one of them from the other them? I guess
it's kind of cool. They had and this is another one of these kind of Nazi roots you learn about. The Holy Them had a 4-letter symbol. It was SSGG, and it stood for Stick, Stein, Grass, and Grun. And what it meant was the first part stood for a rope, and that was how they would hang a lot of the people that they would kill.
Wonderful.
And then the next part had to do with the grassy grave, which basically was saying, hey, if you screw with us, we're going to take you down. So, I mean, this was an organization that not some very nice people. And SSGG, when you see, Nazi and the Hitlers and everything, Nazi and the Hitlers,
Sounds like a horrible pop band from the 60s.
Bad rock band. There.
Yeah, it didn't make it.
Nazi and the Hitler.
Yeah, they were Lennon and the Bolsheviks were front, opening for them.
Oh,
I'm
man.
sorry. Sorry.
Oh dear, this has got to be sacrilegious.
Possibly.
Feels wrong.
So,
See, for other reasons, they had the SS, but what happened was you have hundreds of years of history in Germany where the letters SSGG, when somebody saw those letters, it would strike fear in their hearts. And so the Nazis knew this, and so they just lopped off the GG. You've got SS, and immediately you already have a symbol that people have hundreds of years of history in. Hello?
Yes,
you with us?
yeah, we're here. We're here.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, fine.
Sorry, there something happened to my phone.
okay.
You have hundreds of years of history of people being deathly afraid of these letters, and so SS was immediately something that they knew they could take hold of.
Okay.
Yeah, I see the parallel there. So this organization, it kept on going for a long, long time, or what eventually became of the Holy Vem?
The Holy Vem, really what you find is that when the Nazi Party started up, they really wanted to dig back into their history and into their roots, and you find that they were very much clinging to these ideals that were started with the Holy Vem. And so they kind of pick up right where all this other stuff was left off. And that's the other part of the story that's so fascinating. There was this book that I was talking about, The Gospels of Henry the Lion.
Okay.
Sotheby's sold The Gospels of Henry the Lion in 1983, December 6th, I think it was, for roughly $12 million.
Is that all? What a bargain.
Crazy. And it was like, at that time, it was the most money paid for a book at auction.
Who bought it?
But here's the best part of it.
Okay.
The sellers remained completely anonymous. And in fact, after the check was delivered, an unmarked plane departed from Berlin, went to an unknown place, picked up the Gospels of Henry the Lion, and then departed to go to a museum where the book still is today. And nobody, and I've talked to people at Sotheby's in New York, in London, I've talked to investigative reporters, all kinds of people. No one knows who the sellers of the Gospels of Henry the Lion were. But most people believe that it was a small consortium of Nazis, some little faction of Nazis that was a holdover from the end of the World Wars.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, what was it called again? The Odessa Files, or the Odessa Network, what basically, funneled a whole bunch of Nazis outside of Germany after the war, and they got to preserve their integrity and their wealth and everything. And, what was that, what was that guy's name that was in Argentina? Mossad caught him a long time.
No idea, man.
Anyway, but yeah, sure, it's totally possible there could be ex-Nazis still floating around there with lots of stolen Swiss gold and whatever. Still doing their wicked things.
How did you get in touch with this Philip guy? What's his connection to all these weirdos?
Well, the crazy thing, I just, was surfing around the internet looking for different information about the Holy Vem, and stumbled across this website where this guy Philip Gardner was like, "Hey, I actually met some of them," and I was like, "You got to be kidding me!" And so I started reading through the account, if you look on the web and you just punch in, into Google like Holy Vem and Philip Gardner, you'll find it. And it's just it's a great tale, and the way he tells it is really spooky too. He has kind of like a little lunch with these 3 or 4 guys, and they sit down at the table, and they're these older guys, and even the way they set their silverware on the table was in a very specific manner, in a manner that was a secret thing that you would do if you were part of the Holy Vem, and this was a secret way to show everybody at the table, that hey, if you're part of this organization, you'll know what this means. But if you're not, then you won't. And so Philip Gardner meets them, and as he talks about it, you can just tell he's very creeped out. He's immediately ready to get out, because he gets into a limo with these guys, and he's like, "Where are they taking me? Maybe to kill me or something."
Taking you to see the Virgin Mary.
Just going to church, Philip? Don't worry about it.
I know it's an underground cave and it's creepy, but don't worry about it.
You'll be okay.
It's a holy place. And you'll be holy.
Yeah.
Too.
It's a golden statue of Mary. It's pretty.
So he takes the limo with the creepy old guys.
Exactly. But so I went ahead and I just emailed him. I mean, he had a contact info thing, and I thought he'd never get back with me. But I was just like, hey, I just wrote a book called Illuminated, and now I'm working on studying up about the Holy Them, and I just wondered more about them, and I was like, and if this really happened. And he emailed me back, I think just the next day, and said, yes, this happened, and he's like, watch out what you find out, and, be careful, and this is an organization that's, still around, and they're very dangerous, and, at that point, it's like, I'd already finished most of my second book, and I was like, there's no backing out now. I'm like, do I release this thing? Am I going to get in trouble? Like, what's going to happen? But I've decided to, go ahead and forge ahead.
Oh, good. Yeah, forget those creepy old societies.
No evil, no evil death.
I mean, what can they do?
No evil death threats or anything like that.
Silently poison you in your sleep or whatever.
Yeah,
don't worry about that.
You haven't received any email threats or anything like that, have you?
Not yet. There's a friend of mine, this guy, an author named Bob Liparello, and he was doing some research about a group. I think they're called the Assassins, another ancient secret society. Mm-hmm. He actually did receive death threats on his family. And,
wonderful.
And he warned me. I talked to him one time. I was like, "Listen, is this real? Like, do you kind of have to be careful?" And he's like, "Hey, you get the wrong person who reads your book and gets offended, or thinks that you were after them, or thinks that you might point their name out or something like that. It can get a little bit ugly."
Yeah, let's not forget Salman Rushdie.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a classic example.
The Islamo-fascists are after him.
He's hanging out with
JFK and Marilyn Monroe.
JFK, Marilyn Monroe,
on
and
Secret Island,
and Jim Morrison, and they're all sitting there watching episodes of Magnum in a high-rise.
Yeah,
I don't know where that came from.
All right, well, we're coming up on our first hard break of the night. We're going to be back here in just a little bit, guys, with Matt Bronleewe. His website, once again, www.mattbronleewe.com, mattbronleewe.com. You can check out his book, Illuminated, and there's a little news link and all kinds of other stuff up there that's pretty cool that you can look through. But and we want those phone calls because I thought we were going to have some, and it's just kind of dead tonight. But
I don't know why. It's fascinating stuff.
The Holy Them has killed the line.
Yeah, exactly. We joke about that a lot when we talk about conspiracy. Sometimes something always goes wrong, and we're like,
secret society is going like,
they're changing the tape.
We can't let the people know.
Exactly.
Whatever.
But so we'll be taking your calls, 877-722-7382. And we're back on World of the Unexplained. Tonight we have Matt Bronleewe. I'm assuming I'm pronouncing that right. I keep having to ask.
It's as close as anybody's ever gotten.
Oh, how do you pronounce it?
We Bronleewe's like to say Bronleewe, but that's just us.
Bronleewe. Okay, Bronleewe. All right, I'll start saying it Bronleewe then. Matt Bronleewe, and he's here with us talking about his new book, Illuminated, and we've got a caller. We've got Ron Paul Hunter from Raleigh, North Carolina. Ron, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you guys tonight?
Good. We're doing great. How's things going?
Things are going pretty good in Raleigh. I guess the big thing tonight is trying to spot Comet Holmes that's up there somewhere. Have you guys heard about that one?
No, I haven't. What's the deal?
Oh, really? Yeah, it's like it's a comet that blew up over the last week. It was like kind of a small thing, and only a few people were looking at it. Now it's like it's got a coma bigger than the sun. It's
really
somewhere there are tracking maps. We're trying to find one and take a good look at it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, what's your question for Mr. Bronleewe tonight?
Well, it's not like I don't guess there's a dead-on question that that Holy Them stuff. That is you're saying that's a direct descendant? Like those are the people that preceded the Nazis, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Are you saying that's direct, like a direct link?
Definitely. I mean, as I was digging into a little bit more the Nazi roots, I mean, you start reading about the Thule Society and some other things, but definitely the Holy Them was a very strong component. And again, I think a big part of that is that they had this very long history in Germany, and there was already a lot of fear that was existent, so they were able to tap directly into that. and the culture at large already knew what they were talking about.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. So you're saying it was like built into the folklore and all the wives' tales. What I mean, would the Holy Them be? How would that go into like the Brothers Grimm fairy tales or Peter and the Wolf? How does that work throughout the rest of Europe? Or were these guys like really just Teutonic, or did they go other places? What kind of like, if you're looking at history, how do you write that in? Because my thing is sort of historical. I like to look at a lot of historical accounts and try to see, this is a very new aspect of it from what classical history is. So how does that fit in? How does that like affect other things?
I think what you start seeing is, again, this organization really came to power in the late 1100s, and then through the next century and a half, gained more and more members and came into more and more power. As those members began to die, and some of their journals and letters and things like that were discovered, it began to become more known amongst the people. And so what we start seeing is later on, there were many famous writers who started to talk about the Holy Them and started to talk about the things that they were doing and the way that they were organized. And so what eventually happened, and it's so funny because it's like, if we were to sit around and think about, hey, what would a secret society do? Like, what's the worst thing they would do, and how would it look? And we picture these guys in like black cloaks, sitting around and passing judgment on somebody and killing them. And that's exactly what the Holy Them did. And so it's like what you really see is that all these other organizations that came afterward, you even start to see it with like the Masons and other organizations that came, in the hundreds of years after. They start picking up some of these same traditions that were started with the Holy Them.
Right. So, but you're saying it was basically a secret society to secret society thing, that their influence on the outside world was limited by the fact that if they had real influence on the outside world, they wouldn't be secret for very long. That type of thing?
But again, it's like, here's an organization that, came to include 100,000 members. I mean, this isn't an organization that, it's not like a couple guys out in the woods. I mean, this is a really powerful underground organization.
Didn't the Klan get like, I think it was more than 10,000 guys to march in support of it in Washington, D.C. at one point?
Well, yeah, but this is
like before World War II, right?
Yeah, but this group was back in the day, though.
Right. Well, I'm talking about today also. There's I don't know. This also affects modern day. It affects history. It affects things, and that we're doing in America today. There's still a lot of things that are going on in America that you have to understand history to be able to understand what people's possible motivation might be. Sometimes it's hard to understand where people are coming from because a lot of people have bizarre philosophies that are passing off as politics. But that's another show, right?
I mean, it's kind of funny, but again, it's like going back to this organization. I mean, think about it. If you saw some guy walking down the street and he had like a black hoodie on and was looking like real tough, you might be like, wow, that's a little bit freaky. And again, that even harkens back to what happened. It's like, here we have hundreds of years of history, these guys in black cloaks and black hoods and everything like that, and people start writing about that and talking about it, and, add that into the thousands of stories that came afterward, and you start, really growing these kind of traditions, these motifs, and that's really what it was. It's like these kind of symbols of power and fear that get picked up time and time again from many organizations. And I think it's exactly like you said. It's like, for you to kind of understand what that's about, you kind of have to go back to some of the roots of it. And here we have this organization, the Holy Them, that is so old and has been around for a long time, and all this folklore and mythology kind of built around.
Well, you understand it from like a non-Christian point of view, as in you don't understand how somebody who believes in Jesus could do that. That's like, when you study history, that's what I'm basically talking about. It's like if you can understand how these guys did what they did, then you can understand how people, who don't believe in Jesus, what their motivation is, because sometimes it's hard to figure it out. A lot of people will just sit back and would tolerate a secret society just simply because their life would be filled with Jesus. Most people who are Christians spend their time thinking and talking about Christian things and, sharing their experience with the life of Jesus and how they pray and how the Holy Spirit works for them, things like that. So it's that kind of environment. I hate to say it, but people who concentrate on what they're doing, basically, a lot of things can go by on the side that they wouldn't even notice.
That's a pretty good point, Ron. Is there any other kind of questions that you have for?
No, man. I was basically just calling in, to say hello.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, look, I was gonna, I don't know, for the political show, but I just wanted to put a thought out for you guys to think about. Was the modern civil rights movement, the march that occurred at the Justice Department in Raleigh with the Reverend Al Sharpton that led a group there? He's like, I was thinking about this was for Jay because he's a lawyer. Is like a modern indictment of America, I was saying, in a microcosm because of its past history of indigenous genocide and colonial-based slavery. It was such a situation that it created. There was almost no news coverage of it on the mainstream media, and I think it's because America has to deal with this problem legally. So I was hoping you could think about that. Maybe I'll try to catch you on the next show and we can go over that one then.
That's a good point, Ron.
We appreciate your call, Ron. Thank
man.
you. All right, Ron Hunter from Raleigh. Hello, Matt.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
You scared me there. I thought you might have cut Matt off too. Okay.
Well, yeah, holy vim.
Yeah. What's this stuff about Sharpton marching in Raleigh?
I haven't even heard about it.
Oh no, I'm just curious. I swear, how do you call yourself a reverend when you never went to divinity school? Much less, I don't think he's ever had a church, has he?
I don't think so.
Yeah, he's
Has
just
Jesse
a self-appointed
Jesse
reverend.
Jackson ever had a
Oh,
church?
of course not. He's just one of these other liberals.
So he's a reverend with quotation marks around the word reverend. Anyway, okay, totally different.
Okay, yeah.
Talk about interesting things like secret societies.
Yeah, what do you know? What do you know about the Masons, Matt? Have you done any work with those guys?
Yeah, I definitely had to dig into their history, the Knights Templar and everything, and there's a lot of that in Illuminated actually that I deal with, including their treasure and how that was passed around and who maybe contributed to that. And there's definitely a lot of Templar history that's in Illuminated as well.
Huh. What do you think about the Masons? Are they evil people? What's going on with those guys?
Well, I definitely think, I think with a lot of these secret societies, the thing that you keep seeing time and time again is that there's plenty of members who just kind of like the social part of it. They're there to, hang out with everybody, and they think it's kind of a cool thing. And then there's like the few stalwarts. There's the people who really are into the history of it and what it's all about. And, I don't think you have to get too deep into their history to really start bringing up some hard questions.
Yeah. Was there any possibility that these organizations, I don't know what the word is that I'm looking for, got together? You're a secret society member. You're a secret Mason. I'm a secret Holy Vim. Did they ever coincide and have any kind of interactions with each other? And how'd that go, if that were the case?
The thing that I seem to keep finding is that instead of maybe an overlap, it's interesting. If you kind of start laying out the histories of these different organizations, there is plenty of overlap. But a lot of times what you'll find is that one will start to disappear, and then not too long after, another will rise in its place. And so I think you start seeing that there in so many societies, there must be some kind of need for this, or the people seem to feel like they have some need for this. Some way to collect and fight back, but remain anonymous. I think you see this in many societies in almost every century.
Okay, that's a pretty good point.
Have you guys had some Masons come on the show? Or
oh yeah,
we have.
Yeah, we've had Bill Snevlin. Are you familiar with this guy?
I don't think so.
Yeah, he proclaims to be an ex-vampire,
as well as
ex-Mormon, ex-Satanist, everything,
ex-Mason,
and now he's a born-again evangelical Christian.
Wow.
That's true.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff.
Took a hard path to turn around,
Yeah, interesting stuff. But hey. It's just interesting because he talks about the Masons.
That's true. But
I have an uncle that's a 32nd degree Mason.
Is that so, Scott?
Yeah.
Wow. So that technically,
I've been trying to get in, right, to see what's
Mason.
going on, right?
Yeah.
And I haven't been very, very lucky with that.
I think in a lot of ways about secret societies, is the fact that they are secret, and that's like a double-edged sword. Now,
there may not be a secret, though.
Maybe they may be benevolent. Maybe they might have the best intentions.
Maybe there was a secret, now there's not one.
Possibly. Or, but on the outside, when you're looking into that society and going like, oh, you're a secret, what kind of secrets are you hiding? And then all kinds of speculation could pop up, whether it's true or not. You see what I'm saying? Whether good or bad.
So have you delved into any of the Illuminati or any of these mythological secret societies, Matt?
Yeah, it's so funny to me. It's like, I feel like once you start, reading about one, you end up reading about all of them, and they do get kind of quickly lumped together, and I suppose with good reason. I mean, there's a lot of times when they do have very similar principles, maybe even very similar methodologies. But sometimes you'll find they'll have very different, secrets or things they were dealing with. I've been starting to look a lot more into, ancient relics, and that was one thing that played a big part in this organization called the Holy Bem, and I've been dealing with a lot in this second book called House of Wolves. I started studying about the Holy Lance, the spear that
pierced Christ's side.
And that's like led me down a whole new, path. It's been absolutely fantastic. It's like, one of the main settings in my new book is Antarctica. And I started digging up all this information about the Holy Lance, the Spear of Destiny, it was called, and Antarctica, and the strongholds that Hitler had there, including, and this was one of the things that first kind of alerted me to, man, maybe there's something to this. I was surfing around the internet again. It seems like so many of these things you kind of stumble upon this way. And I found a place that was like Strange Maps in History. Such a great title. And we're going through there, and I found this map of a place called New Schwabenland. And started looking into it, and I was like, what is this all about? And looked at the map, and I was like, this looks really familiar. Come to find out, it was a map of Antarctica. And started looking into it, and sure enough, this was a real map. Somebody didn't create it in Photoshop or something like that. It's a real map that the Nazis had. And on this map, there are these tiny little Nazi flags, and they're dotted all over the place, different little settlements that they were trying to start. And looked into a little bit more, come to find out that about 10 years after, I think it was about 10 years after World War II ended, America sent forces in great number to Antarctica. And on the surface level, they told everybody, hey, this is just, to explore and to figure out a little bit more about this place that we know very little about. But there's been a lot of evidence and a lot of documentation that's come out since that has suggested that they were going to make sure that the Nazis weren't still kind of underground and waiting in Antarctica. And they definitely found, lots of things. They had created these underground layers. They had, all kinds of tanks and military vehicles and ships and all kinds of things that they were storing in Antarctica. And in fact, there was, and I even purchased it. I found it online. There's a National Geographic magazine, and I'm actually looking at it right now. It's dated October 1947, actually. And on front it says, Our Navy Explores Antarctica. And inside of it, there's tons of pictures, there's illustrations and maps, and
was there an article on global cooling in there?
Is mentioned in talks throughout it. And as you read more about him and his experiences in Antarctica, things get a little bit fishy. I mean, they were definitely, it seems, looking for Nazi holdovers.
Kind of like Indiana Jones.
A little bit.
Well, I mean, it makes sense.
Oh, definitely.
Now, are there any articles in that old National Geographic about global cooling?
Well, there's lots of things that both the Antarctic and the Antarctic, as global warming and the ice caps are melting and all this kind of stuff. Everybody's looking for these mineral deposits and gold deposits and things that are being exposed for the first time. I just saw an article in the front of USA Today a couple months ago about the Arctic, that there are these huge mineral deposits they're discovering now that the ice is melting.
Yeah, and trees and all kinds of other stuff.
And maybe if there's a Nazi strongholds in Antarctica, the global warming will just melt off the ice, and
we can get to the gold.
Right, we can see.
We'll find them.
We'll find them. We don't just sit back and wait.
I just think it's interesting if you look back into if you look back in history, you see some of these older National Geographics. You can find articles, honestly, on global cooling, where they talked about, oh my gosh, we may be heading for a deep freeze. Scientists are saying that the Earth is cooling at a rapid rate.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're seeing it shifting, going, well, scientists are saying the Earth is warming at a rapid rate. And maybe it's just cyclical. I don't know. You know?
It possibly could be. I mean, I'm firmly convinced we have some kind of impact on it, but, weather's weather and climate.
And we've been polluting Earth for hundreds of thousands of years, so I don't know.
The Romans built a lot of iron, and that caused a lot of trees that they had to burn to make the charcoal to make the iron.
That's true.
But that was 2,000 years ago. But
yeah. So go ahead.
I don't know. So your next book, it will involve the Holy Lands and this Holy Vim, and it's also.
I know what I was going to say. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
This is funny. You're going to like this. I have a friend I went to law school with. His name's Gust. You know Gust.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's got a friend. I've never met this guy, but I've heard stories. He's got a friend, and Matt, you would like this. Maybe I can put you in contact with the guy. I don't know. He's a little crazy, but he's got a friend that has been searching for the Holy Grail for a number of years now. I mean, really searching, like Indiana Jones pop style.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I've been wanting to kind of get him on the show, just for the fun of the conversation. I'm sure it has to be something somewhat exhilarating. But definitely there's people out there that really do look for these things. And I don't know if you're familiar with, I know Jerry Smith wrote a book, Jerry E. Smith, a few years ago, Holy Lands. We've had him on the show a few times.
We talked about that book in particular.
And, I mean, there's so much information out there. So it's up in the air. I mean, you can find about anything you want, especially with the internet. Like you said, Philip Gardner, for instance. I mean, how's this guy getting into it?
And there are so many sources. I mean, one of the things that I'm learning is that you definitely can't trust only. You can't just go to Wikipedia and look something up and think,
oh, that's it.
That's the end of the story. It's like, I mean, for a lot of my research, I mean, I've had lots of help. Definitely contact as many experts as I can.
Mm-hmm.
I've brought on people from local colleges to help me, research and dig further. And I always feel like I need to try and at least, kind of triangulate data, like find a number of sources that seems to point to kind of the truth of the matter. And I had to do that a lot for Illuminated. I mean, Johannes Gutenberg was an incredibly mysterious character. And there was a lot of debate as to, what he was doing. And even with his creation of the Bible. And, this debate actually still goes on today. I'll talk to some people and they'll be like, oh, yeah, without a doubt, he created the Bible because he wanted to get the Bible into the hands of the commoner. And I think that there's a lot of truth to that.
It's because those Catholics were oppressing everyone, man. Seriously, I mean, the Catholics, I don't know.
It wasn't the Catholics, it was the Catholic Church.
Well, the Catholic Church,
the
it's
Catholic
the same thing.
Well, not necessarily.
Okay. The
people,
the higher ups.
Yeah, the guys
Catholic
calling
Church.
the shots in the Catholic Church were basically oppressing people by withholding knowledge, for example.
And, I mean, I don't know. They're still doing it today somewhat. I think they're still calling the shots and making up their own rules as they go. That's just my opinion.
Oh, well,
not that I'm a Catholic hater or anything.
Yeah.
But I just think that, when you create stuff like, I don't know, purgatory or other things like that, and you create it with no real scriptural basis.
Or theological
I could take a little verse. It's like the Mormons, man. You can take a little verse out of the Bible and said, I'm going now to visit a sheep of another fold. And now you got a whole new book that was supposedly found by a guy named Joseph Smith in Utah somewhere, and the angel Moroni. Come on, Moroni, M-O-R. Yeah, I mean, hope you're not Mormon there, Matt. Hello? All right.
You're all safe here, yeah.
Okay, good.
I was afraid those were going to be awkward pauses.
There was an awkward pause.
Exactly.
We offend people on a regular basis here. Sometimes they hang up on us, so it just depends on the guest.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I don't know. There's so much out there. We probably got a couple callers getting ready to call in for you here. They're in our chat room chatting away right now. But if you guys want to call in, the number's 877-722-7382. That number again, 1-877-SCARE-YOU2, toll free in the United States and Canada, but not for you guys in Mexico.
Sorry,
you're gonna have
Mexico.
to pay your way. And locally, 336-996-1596. We're going to take our last break of the night. You're listening to World of the Unexplained. Our guest tonight is Matt Bronleewe. Is that right? Bronleewe, okay. www.mattbronleewe.com. That's MattBronleewe. And you can check out his new book there, Illuminated, which will be followed by a series of books based on the same character. And we'll talk to him after the break about any kind of comparisons people may have made between his work and that of Dan Brown. Interesting. So you're listening to World of the Unexplained. We'll be right back after this.
We're in the last leg of World of the Unexplained. We got Matt Bronleewe.
That's right. Last call.
1-877-722-7382.
Go ahead.
1-877-722-7382. Or locally, 336-996-1596. Tell us where you are going to be.
Oh, yeah.
In the next couple of days, some appearances.
For our Nashville listeners.
Yeah, for our Nashville listeners.
You know who you are. Some of you bought tickets to our event. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Nashville listeners. Yeah, tomorrow night, Tuesday night, I'm going to be at the Barnes & Noble in Cool Springs, which is just south of Nashville. Barnes & Noble in Cool Springs at 7 p.m. to do a signing and a reading of Illuminated.
Awesome.
Cool. Very cool.
How long does the reading last? I mean, do you just read a chapter or just a...
I'll be reading I'm going to read the entire novel.
Wow.
Whoa. Oh, wow.
Seriously, how much...
Okay, everybody, grab a chair and a slice
and a latte,
and keep them captive for 12 hours straight.
No, I mean, what, do you just read the first chapter, or do you read excerpts from different chapters, or how does that work?
Yeah, I'm gonna jump around and just kind of do some highlights, some favorite parts, and I know there's going to be some people there with some questions. I've already gotten some emails in advance about questions people have about specific characters and events, and so it's going to be really interactive. I'm going to try and shed some light on the behind the scenes and all that kind of stuff, and it should be great fun.
You're going to illuminate.
Yeah, well, we're going to get that press copy of your book, and we're actually going to read it because like I said, I haven't checked it. We kind of did this real short notice, but when I do check the mail, we'll get that and read it and have you back on so we can ask you more, I guess, pertinent questions about the characters and the formulation of what's going on.
Definitely.
So, let's see. Ancient books, secret societies.
Yeah, going back to my question, though, has anyone ever compared your writing to Da Vinci Code, Dan Brown, any of that stuff?
I think that people have brought up just more that general vein of fiction. I mean, obviously Da Vinci Code was the big one, but there's guys like Steve Barry, Daniel Silva, James Rollins. There's a lot of guys, including Dan Brown, that are kind of working in this vein, which is really kind of a historical thriller. It's usually set modern day, but definitely picking things throughout history, secret societies, secret books, what have you, and bringing it to light.
Okay. That's interesting. It's like a new, I guess it's the new
genre of
the new popular genre now.
It's a pretty cool one too. I'm glad people are writing books such as yourself.
I'm glad people are still writing books, period, and reading them. I mean, it's it's amazing what you see the lack of any kind of historical reference point with kids nowadays. And I mean, I hate to say that. I mean, I guess I can consider myself a kid to a certain degree. I'm 31. But, when you go back and you look at, the stuff that I've read and the stuff that I know Trent and James have read, it's just one of those things where you look back and you see, you may even mention a character as a joke or use a character's name in a pun, and people won't get what you're talking about.
Right.
We've become such a stupid society of internet feed, internet fed, text message fed, video game. It's awful. I mean, I know guys my age and older that their wives complain about them sitting in front of a video game machine. I mean, come on, they got kids, and they have responsibilities. I have a lot of clients that come into me that are women that'll tell me this. Well, he plays the video games all the time and won't talk to me anymore. It's like,
well, video games and computer games are basically electronic drugs.
yeah, but I
They
mean,
really are.
it's just awful because the intelligence level is going down. What happened to turning off a TV and picking up a book?
Well, I mean, maybe it's swinging that way. I can't imagine it'll keep on. People hopefully will grow sick of those things.
I don't
I'm
think
just
so.
being
I think it's getting
optimistic.
worse and worse. I did. Have you heard, Matt? I don't know what political persuasion you fall into. Can I ask?
I vote for the best man.
Okay, he's not going to answer the question.
There we go.
But there's a website out there. I'm trying to remember the guy's name, and I've heard it played before. And I've swung from both sides of the strata because before, when I was in law school, as I tell people before, I used to be this hardcore ACLU liberal, and now I've turned all the way around to the right. It's just been a crazy journey for me. But there was a guy that redid the Patton. You guys have all seen Patton, right? Yeah. George C. Scott. Okay.
Yeah.
Where he's given the speech at the beginning. They redid that.
From the American flag.
Yeah. This guy redid this for modern times, and he talks about the people sitting on their butts, playing the PlayStations, and they need to get off their butts. And, I mean, it's really hilarious. You should check this out. It's on the internet out there. If you go to YouTube and type in Iraq, I think it comes up on the first page.
Wow.
But it's really funny. I mean, because he takes and he's put the voiceover on it, and his voice that he does, he's a professional voiceover guy for a living.
Yeah.
But the voice he does sounds just like George C. Scott giving that speech. It is hilarious. I recommend it to anyone out there. It is just funny stuff just to sit and listen to it. I think it's only about 4 or 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But it is some really funny stuff.
That's great. Well, and we've talked about the internet so many times tonight and how we find information that way and everything. And one of the big things that came to light for me, and you talk about understanding history. I was a guy who, in high school, really wasn't interested in history, and I talked about how, in college I was an economics major. I wasn't involved with history or interested in it then, and it really wasn't until later when I started reading and finding all these tremendous stories and these tremendous people and everything, and then I started reading about Gutenberg and his printing press and the first books printed and how that revolutionized the world. And I really started realizing that, that was kind of the same thing as the internet back then. It's like,
oh, yeah.
From a time where, people didn't have, books in their homes, they couldn't be mass-produced and sent elsewhere. And then Gutenberg starts his press, and so you see for the first time people being able to take their ideas, put it on the page, print loads of them, and send them all over the world. And so you find for the first time, this explosion of knowledge, this explosion of information. And what happens? You find in the next century, the Reformation happens, the Renaissance happens, and all of that can be pointed right back to Gutenberg's printing press.
That's
well,
true.
Here we are, it's like, 500 years later. And the internet. And, right now we're very focused on, YouTube and MySpace and everything like that. But
what is your MySpace, real quick, for the listeners, Matt?
Yeah, it's very easy. Same as my website, myspace.com/Matt Bronleewe.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Yeah, and definitely, come visit me there and mattbronleewe.com.
Do you have any of your musical compositions up on there?
I think there is. In fact, I believe one of them, me and a really good friend, Jeremy Bowes, we do some dance remixes, and I believe one of our dance remixes may be up there right now for people to listen to.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool.
Dancing mixes are always fun.
Oh, yeah.
So, just not really off topic, but when you're writing these books, and when now you're working on the new one, did you ever get to, go to a museum or something and say, "Hey, I'm writing this book. Can I see a copy?"
Yeah, I
of
was going to ask that too.
Yeah,
Have
can
you
I
seen
see
a
a copy
copy
of the Gutenberg Bible in the page?
Glass.
Yeah, in the glass.
Exactly.
Well, they've got a copy at Duke University. I've seen it
they
actually
do.
out on display there.
So.
Well, and that's one of the crazy things. There are copies of the Gutenberg that are around, and at most of the organizations that have them, they're not very well advertised, and this is why. They say if a Gutenberg Bible were to go to auction today, it could fetch well over $100 million.
I wouldn't be surprised, really.
How many
these universities and other places?
How many copies are there?
There's 48 in existence today.
Wow.
And that's out of, it's really a remarkable number given that there were only 200 originally created.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, over a quarter of them survived, basically.
What's that again?
Over a quarter of them, or close to a quarter of them, have survived the centuries, really.
Correct. And that seems like a really high number. However, the other side of that is that most of them were in the hands of kings, large churches. These were places that, I mean, this was a very prized and expensive possession when they had it. So it does make sense that they actually survived for such a long time.
Right.
And that we have so many. But I was able to go to the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C., which is a tremendous place. And it's like, it's really sad. Most people don't know about the Library of Congress, what it looks like, or how amazing it is. You walk in, and every square inch of the place has art and a tremendous history, and they have a Gutenberg Bible on display in this refrigerated case, basically, and it's absolutely exquisite. Was also able to go to the Morgan Library in New York City, and they have a copy of the Gutenberg there. Again, amazing. And was able to talk to people at the Huntington Library in California, and have had a lot of different experiences with experts and with book people, who've been able to tell me a lot about the Gutenberg Bible.
Not so much luck with the Gospel of Henry the Lion. You said there was just one copy that got sold, and I'm sure that one's probably not easy to find, if at all.
Yeah, that one's been a lot more difficult. I have not been able to go see it yet. It's in Germany in a library there. I think it's called the Herzog August Library, actually.
Wow.
I mean, it even includes, my main character's name.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
In the library's title, which is awesome. Not something I planned. And they only show the Gospels of Henry the Lion, man, it's like 2 weeks out of the year.
Oh, my
like
gosh.
That. And it was kind of like right after I decided this is what I'm going to write about. I looked it up, and, they'd shown it the month before.
Oh.
So if I get a chance to go, I'm hoping to perhaps be able to go next year and get a viewing, and I think that would be really, really cool. But I'm definitely, any chance I get to go somewhere and do some real-world exploration, I do it. I was just at a place called the Cloisters in New York, which is a division of the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and I went there to do some research for my third book, and was able to see, it's a book called The Hours of Jean Devreux. And my third book's going to deal with it and kind of some of the secrets behind it. But it's just awesome to go to these enormous facilities that are exquisitely put together, and just so many things from history, and you can learn so much.
Sounds pretty exciting.
We're going to give you the final word, and then we're going to let you go, and I'll be in touch with you later.
Awesome.
Your show.
Yeah, take it away.
Well, for anybody who wants a great thriller, it was a lot of fun putting it together. Illuminated is out on shelves at your local bookstore. You can find it on Amazon.com. If you want to find out more, if you want to get a sample chapter, I've even created a soundtrack that you can listen to. Please go to mattbronleewe.com, or you can find me on MySpace at myspace.com/mattbronleewe as well.
All right, awesome.
Fantastic.
Thanks so much for being our guest tonight,
It's been
Matt.
a pleasure, Matt.
Thanks so much for having me, guys.
Okay.
Take care.
Bye.
All right, Matt Bronleewe. That's spelled Bronleewe.
His book is Illuminated. Go pick it up.
Definitely check it out. We're going to check it out. That sounds really good.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
Good guess this week.
When I was about 12 years old, I had formed a secret society.
Oh Lord,
I really did. And it's so cheesy, but I'm just going to tell you about it because it's just stupid. And for whatever reason, I don't even know where this came from. I had just this head full of obscure, weird animals. Like, what kind of animal would represent my secret society?
the salamander.
And, no. Well, that would actually be pretty cool. But no, I had chosen the mandrill. That East African monkey with a little blue...
Only Trent would choose the mandrill
the blue
at like 10
rings.
years old. Yep.
Yeah, with the blue rings, and I called my secret society the
Mandrellians?
No, the Mandargo Club.
Oh my god!
Like I had a little symbol of it. And
let me guess, you were the only member of this. That's why it stayed secret all these years. He was the only member.
Still a member, Scott.
Of the secret society.
Oh, I'm not the only member now. Oh no,
there's three of us: me,
Yes.
myself, and my other personality.
Yes. And we plot things, and I don't know if it was an evil secret society or a good secret
I
society.
mean, how do you give yourself the secret handshake? I mean, how does that work? I mean,
no.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's a hand sign, Scott.
Yeah.
It's not a secret
okay.
handshake.
Sorry.
Not that hand sign, Scott. That'd probably
That's
give me,
vulgar. Yeah,
that would probably get me shot somewhere. Actually, Scott just gave me a quote secret hand sign.
That's right.
But it was pretty fun, and I thought it was really cool. And unfortunately, it had no premise, doctrine, theology, or even tenets behind it.
It just had a cool animal.
It had a cool animal, a symbol, and what that animal, what the society was based around. And apparently, I built like a shanty or whatever out in the woods out of a fallen tree, and like little vines that go over it. So it was like a little cloistered.
Well, me and Derek had one of these too.
Oh, really?
We were like 10 or 11.
Yeah. What was it?
I don't remember the name of it, but I do remember that Derek had created this whole handbook for it. Like, I mean, we're probably talking about, not the college line, the college ruled paper, but the other kind, I guess.
And so what were the premises behind it?
I just remember we had like 20 some pages, and some of it was, I guess, for an 11-year-old boy or a 10-year-old boy, it was pretty cool because Derek had talked to his father and got all the, all the letters like A for Alpha, B's Bravo, C's, and all that,
Delta,
all that
Echo,
stuff, and we got all that, and we wrote
Golf,
it down,
Hotel.
Yeah, okay.
India.
Yeah, that.
Lima, Motel, November, Oscar. Anyway, sorry.
That, yeah. And he wrote all that down, and then we had like our little battle formations and stuff like that.
Battle formations?
Oh, yeah, man.
So you're planning on
It was
somewhere?
great, yeah. I think we got a caller. I don't know. It flashed. There we go.
That's pretty crazy.
But yeah, we had little battle formations.
Was it based off of a creature or anything?
No, we didn't have any creatures specifically that I remember, but it was just one of those kind of cool, I don't know, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think my secret society was very tribal somehow.
Ours, we had a little clubhouse and stuff like that because his dad had like God knows how many acres of land, and we had like the horses, and we had the little barn, and then there was an area down by the creek that we could play in, and it was fun.
My secret society and your secret society could have joined forces.
We could have,
we could have done stuff.
I don't think we were hanging out then, though.
No, well, I was pretty. I don't think I was hanging out with anybody, Scott.
Yeah,
obviously I was building a shanty in the woods
by yourself
and having interesting childhood, I'd say. But I read a lot, actually. That's all I found out myself doing in the Mendargo Club. I sat out there and read my Quixote and
it's kind of like the what's that Robin Williams movie, Dead Poet Society. There you go.
Well, maybe, yeah.
For one.
True. Right.
Minus the poetry.
Yeah, for one. Yeah,
the Dead Prose Society.
The Dead Prose Society, yeah. And I think it was a very...
Oh, okay, great.
So if you're a member of a secret society, make sure you...
877. Give us an email, worldoftheunexplained@gmail.com.
I think maybe I'll revive my secret society and see where it goes. Maybe I'll actually have a tenant.
Yeah, if you're a member of a secret society and have dirt on them, worldoftheunexplained@gmail.com. We're listening. We're listening.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll take you seriously, maybe. But we'll definitely put you on the air, serious or not.
No.
You've heard some of our guests before.
Oh, yeah.
We've had literally guests that are nuts, so we'll put you on.
Oh, yeah.
We don't have any problem with that.
You're nuts.
The more nutty, the better, man.
Not saying you're nuts at all. You may have a very keen and interesting perspective on the world. But,
or maybe not, but we'll still put you on.
Absolutely. Come on.
worldoftheunexplained@gmail.com. We'll hook it up.
But yeah, that's a really interesting thing. The Holy Vim. Never heard of those dudes.
I thought it was Vim.
Yeah, but it's Vim.
Vim.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I thought it was Vim.
But it sounds like Vim.
It sounds like Vim.
The
the Holy Vim.
That's a pretty close phonetic sound on the radio.
It is. Next week, we have President George W. Bush as a guest. I'm kidding. I just want to see how that would... I just want to hear how that would sound if I said it, Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be...
So, Mr. President, how are things going in the war? Well, we're smoking them out, Jay.
What's that other thing? What's that other thing that he says?
Last week I was
holding the line, standing the ground.
Standing my ground here out in Texas with my wife, Laura.
We're smoking
and
them
I
out.
was talking about them nuclear weapons of mass destruction. And we've got to smoke them out.
This is crazy, but it's totally true. There was some article I'd read a number of years ago before September 11th, after September 11th, and but it was talking about an interview to George W. Bush about the Taliban. Somewhere
he had no idea who they were.
He wasn't even elected at the point, and
he didn't know who they were.
Yeah, you know what he said about them?
What
he said was that some kind of rock band. Essentially, that's what he said
kind of
about the
band?
Taliban.
It's one of them things that Bono guy from U2's in.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, political show.
Political
Third
show.
Rail, Wednesday.
ThirdRailRadio.com. ThirdRail.
Something for you guys to listen to while
radio.com.
you're starting your turkey and
That's right.
starting your preparations for Thanksgiving.
8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, same time as WOTU.
That's right. How convenient for us.
Exactly.
For them.
Same phone number, too.
Is it?
Yeah. We're just not going to say it to scare you, too. We're just going to be like 877-722-7382. Yeah,
maybe you can make some kind of political pundit out of it.
I can't. I've tried. but the point is...
Let me work on it, Scott. I'm pretty good with that stuff.
The point is, though, Wednesday night, the night after tomorrow night, we're going to start that. Me and Chuck Browder here, Third Rail Radio.
That's right.
And we have Mr. Buchanan on from SaveHungerNow.org talking about the great things that they're doing in the world to save hunger and kill the Democrats. No, I'm kidding.
Wait a minute. Save hunger? They're trying to preserve...
They're trying to preserve hunger, yes. No, they're trying to end hunger and kill the Democrats. I mean, I'm sorry. But yeah.
Is that really part of their premise?
No, to kill the Democrats? No, probably not.
Well, why not?
I don't know. I don't know what's wrong with them.
That would be your premise, wouldn't it, Scott?
That is, yeah.
Yeah.
Liberalism.
I'm shaking
Michael
my
Savage
head.
is right. Liberalism is a mental disease. It really is. I mean,
I'm kind of scowling at
these
you
people. These people just don't understand. They hate America. Democrats hate America.
For your
at least 9 out of 10 of them do.
For your myopic view on the world, Scott.
At least 9 out of 10 of them un-American. Traitors. Ann Coulter had it right. Traitors. Every last one of them.
Yeah, you are.
I am. I'm going to burn it down. I'm lighting it up.
I'm going to keep on talking about you being myopic.
Anyway, next week we're going to have someone really good. I'm just going to leave it at that.
All right.
And over the Thanksgiving weekend, if you guys get a chance to check out www.worldoftheunexplained.com, the whole website is going through a crazy revamping process. That's right. It's been needing one a long time.
Weblift.
And it'll actually get updated. I know you guys will be just thrilled as punch.
Please as punch. Pearl the
That was
world.
the one. I couldn't think of it.
Please
I had a
as punch.
George W. Bush moment.
Yeah, I
and
see
if
that.
I sting you 3 times and
fool
I don't know what.
yourself again. Pearl the world.
This is Jay Scott, your only JD DJ on the Omni Sound Radio 1 network saying bonjour.
This is Trey Lackey. We're coming to you from Kernersville, North Carolina, a small town where we talk about big things. Watch out for those scare squatches, people. Have a good Thanksgiving.
Yes, happy Turkey Day. Since Mr. Browder's not here, Mr. Clements will have to do.
Till next week.